Hello students, today we'll study reproduction in animals. So this is very interesting chapter, like whenever you have one flower and one plant, another plant, how it can be reproduced, that we will study here. And also the animals, for the animals also, how do they reproduce? That means the offsprings that will be reproduced, that we will study here. Okay, so here in this lecture only I will describe the introduction to reproduction. Okay, now what is reproduction? First, reproduction, this is the process. We know that using this process, just a minute, please let me take the pointer first. Okay, so this is the process of giving rise to an offspring. So if I have one parent, then I have some offspring, right? And here that means offspring or child. Okay, so this is the reproduction. That means from parent we are going to reproduce the offspring. Sorry. Offspring, so that means child. So reproduction, that means this is the process through which one parent that can reproduce the offspring, that can produce, or the process, this is the process. Okay, so this is the process through which one parent they can get the offsprings or child. And reproduction, that is essential for the continuation of species, because you know that there is some age, okay, for every species. For every species there is some age. There is some age. After that they will not be here. Okay, that means their death will be there. They will die. So that means if there will be no offsprings, at that time we can see that species will be extinct. So that's why, suppose one human being, so if there will be no offspring, then you can see that there will be no human being at once. So that means here you can see that due to the reproduction, that is essential for continuation of species. Whatever it may be, plant, from one plant another, several plants may be there, because maybe through the seed also, maybe through the root also, maybe through the stem also. So there are several means of reproduction in the plant. Similarly, for the animal also, we have several process of the reproduction in the animals also. And that means any living organism that produces its offspring. Okay, now there are two modes of reproduction. So the reproduction may be sexual reproduction, or it may be asexual reproduction. Okay, asexual reproduction. So there may be, just a minute. There may be two types of reproduction process. One is the sexual reproduction, another is the asexual reproduction. Okay, now we will elaborate what is sexual reproduction and asexual reproduction. Now from the name you can understand a little bit. Sexual reproduction means there will be some exchange of the sexual gametes here. But asexual representation, the reproduction there, the process will be different. Okay, we will discuss. Okay. Now the asexual reproduction. So the type of reproduction in which only single parent is involved, that is called asexual reproduction. So single parent, that means our asexual reproduction, and you can see that for the human, dog or any other animals, you require both the parents. That means we require mother and father both. So this is the sexual reproduction. Sexual reproduction. Okay. So there is no mixing of genetic information. That means in our cases, what happens, like because the human reproduction, always you know a little bit because you have some siblings also. So here you can see that the sperm and the ovum, that sperm from the male, male, and the ovum from the female, the female. After that, we are making some zygote, right? But in case of asexual reproduction, only single parent is involved. No male or female is there. And there is no mixing of the genetic information. Like birds in Hydra. I will show you how the Hydra, there is some birds and they are reproducing. That we'll discuss. Okay, don't be impatient. We'll discuss very elaborately. Okay, so reproduction, this is very interesting chapter, and I request all of you, please, you try to understand this one, because the reproduction, that does not mean that only for the animals we have to study. We have to study for the plants also. That we'll do. Now, the sexual reproduction here we involves, like I have told earlier, that one male and another female. Here we involve the two parents to give the rise to the offspring. And offspring, always you remember one thing, that offspring, that means the child. Offspring or that means the child. So the males and females have different reproductive parts of the organs. As you can see, for the human being also, the male reproductive organ is different and the female reproductive organ is different. We have the females, they have the ovary, and the males, they have the testes and they have penis. So there are so many reproductive, we will discuss that thing also. So these organs produce male and female gametes. So here they will produce the male and female gametes, and which fuse together to form the offspring. And genetic information from both the parents is inherited. That's why you can see that whenever we are checking for the DNA replication, so there is a matching with the female and the male, that is the parents, mother and father. There is a DNA matching here. Okay, so there is that means some genetic information from both the parents that is inherited, like humans. So what we have studied here, that sexual reproduction, here we require two parents. The single parent is not involved here. Two parents is involved here, and two parents, one is male, one is female, and they have different parts of the reproductive parts in their organs, their reproductive organs, and the organ that produce the male and female gametes, which then makes the fuse together, and then it will make the offspring. And the genetic information that from both the parents, that means from mother and father, both the genetic information will be carried out to the offspring. Okay. Now the modes of reproduction. So depending on the number of parents involved, there are different modes of reproduction. Every living organism reproduces by either two modes. One already we have studied, that is the sexual reproduction and asexual Asexual reproduction. Asexual reproduction. So these are the two modes of reproduction. Modes of reproduction. Okay. Next, the sexual reproduction. Here you can see whatever we have told just in the picture. With a picture, we are just going to describe this thing. Now here we have the male sperm, right? And in this mode of reproduction, the gamete cell from two organisms, one from the male and one from the female. There is a female egg here. Okay. And these two will combine and this will make the zygote. This will make the zygote. And the zygote shares half of its genetic information with the father and the other half with the mother. So this zygote, this shares the half of the genetic information of the father and half of the genetic information of the female. So there are zygote that will carry the genetic information of both the parents, right? Then it will be embryo, then the baby will be here. So the cute baby will be here. So this procedure elaborately we will study definitely. So this is one example only how the male sperm and female egg that will fuse to each other and then it will make the zygote, and then zygote will just after a few weeks it will be embryo, and then after several weeks you can see that there is a baby. Like you in your childhood you can see that whenever you are very little baby. Okay. Now, through the basic of it remain the same. There are many different modes of sexual reproduction in So, in this slide, what we have studied that if the male sperm and female egg that will fuse and then zygote will be created, and this zygote, there are some similarities of the genetically, there are some similarities with the father and mother, but the offspring is different from father and mother. That is not totally, some similarities may be there, but it is not like that. Totally it is identical. Okay. Now, the human reproduce sexually by fusion of sperm with egg, ovum to produce the zygote called the fertilization. Okay. So that called the fertilization. So fertilization means from the male the sperm will come and from female the egg, and you can see that these two will produce the zygote, and this process is called fertilization. And this fertilization, this is the crucial stage of sexual reproduction. Without fertilization, the sexual reproduction cannot be completed. So this is very, very important. This stage is very, very important. This is very, very important in sexual reproduction. Okay. The fertilization is very important in sexual reproduction. Now, the sexual reproduction in plants, now we will study. Now, a little bit things you know that this is the flower, and here you can see that these are the anther or filament. This is the anther, and this is the filament, and this is called stamen. And this one is the pollen tube. So whenever these anthers, this will come to this point, at that time you can see that through the pollen tube, the pollen grains, they will go inside. Okay. And here you can see that there is an ovule here. and here you can see that there is ovule here, and then this egg will be reproduced, and the embryo sac is there. As here you can see that after that the reproduction will be there, the fertilization will be there. So this is the first step. Then zygote will be created, then embryo, that means a little bit the zygote will be developed, that is called the seed. This is the seed, and after that the germinating seed, that means from this shoot will come out. So that is the flower reproduction. And this sepal is actually, it is used to protect the flower whenever it is bud. Okay, and receptor, you can see that it will just hold the total flower here. That means whatever the reproduction that can happen inside the female flower. Okay, so plants that reproduce sexually have sex parts which we know as flowers also. The process of reproduction involves the fusion of male gametes, namely pollen. Here the male gametes, previously we have seen that the male sperm that has gone to the ovary. So male gametes here, that is the pollen, okay, and with here there is a fusion with the female gamete. And here what it happens, that here you can see that through this pollen tube, the pollen grains, they will just move inside the ovule, and here you can see that there is a egg here and embryo sac here. So after the fertilization, you can see zygote will be created, and from zygote we can get the embryo after some maturity, then embryo, that is the seed, and then from it the shoot will come out. That means a new plant can be generated, or it is the offspring, okay. So this is the sexual reproduction in plants. Now the fusion results in the formation of zygote, and endosperm nucleus, which grow into the seeds. Here you can see that in this zygote you have some endosperm nucleus which grow into seeds and fruits respectively. So this endosperm nucleus that will grow into seeds, this zygote that will grow into seeds, and here you can see that this is the embryo here, and then fruits, that respectively the fruits will come out. And after certain time you can see that if you are giving these seeds for germination, then you can see that the shoot will come out from here. Okay, now the sexual reproduction in animals. Now different modes of reproduction in animals are there. Mostly sexual reproduction happens in the animals. Now most animals reproduce sexually, but there are different variety also here. Now sexual reproduction in animals involves the union of haploid sperm and haploid egg to form the diploid zygote, and which shares the DNA of both the parents. So you can see that this zygote will share the DNA from mother and DNA from the father, and this zygote, whenever it will mature, after that you can see that there is an embryo, and after certain weeks there will be some baby here. Okay, so this cute baby will be here. Okay, so the sexual reproduction in animals, that involves the union of haploid sperm and the haploid sperm and haploid egg to form the diploid zygote, but the DNA they will share. Okay, now the stages of sexual reproduction. First stage, that is the pre-fertilization. So fertilization is the process that after the pre-fertilization, but for the pre-fertilization, first thing is that the gamete formation. and transfer of gamete. There are two functions. One is gamete formation. One is gamete formation, that is called gametogenesis, and another is the transfer of gametes, So these two process will be done in the pre-fertilization. So one is the gamete formation, another is the transfer of gamete. So here in the last slide, whatever we have said, the haploid sperm that will fuse with that haploid egg, then there will be diploid zygote will be formed. And here you can see that there will be some similarity, that is the maternal and paternal. Maternal means mother, okay, from mother. Paternal means from father, okay. So maternal homology and the paternal homology are there. Here you can see some half of the maternal homology and half of the paternal homology inside the diploid zygote. Okay. So the gametes, these are the sex cells. And which are haploid, 23 chromosomes from here and in nature, and are distinct in males and females. Okay, total 46 we have, but half of them will be shared. That means 23 chromosomes will be shared here and in nature, and are distinct in males and females. Okay. Now the male gamete, that is called the sperm. So the male gamete, that is called the sperm, and whereas the female gamete, that is called ovum or egg. So in every organism, these gametes are formed within the special structure, and one structure here you can see for the human being also, the structure we'll discuss. So the male gamete, that is called the sperm, and the female gamete, that is called what? That is called egg. Okay. So here you can see the sperm cells. Here this is the sperm cell. Here you have a lot of things that we'll discuss. So these are the gametes. This is the male gamete and this is female gamete. Okay. Now, since female gamete is immobile, the female gamete is not mobile, right? But the male gamete, this is mobile, and it can be transferred from male reproductive organ, male reproductive organ. So since female gametes is immobile, male gametes need to be transferred, and that is happening here at the time of fertilization. And in plants, this is attained by pollination. What happens? The pollen grains, this will just move into the female flower. Okay, these pollen grains that will move into the female flower. So that is the thing, that the female gamete that is immobile, but the male gamete that has to be transferred, and it can be transferred in case of plant. It will be transferred through the wind, or sometimes some insects, which insects or butterflies also, they are carrying the pollen grains to the female flower. Okay. So in plants, this is attained by pollination, and in animals, that will be created by the fertilization. And unisexual animals transfer the gametes by sexual intercourse. That means unisexual animals means where you have the male and female. Unisexual means single. So, okay, single sex. That means male and female. Okay, so that animals transfers the gametes by sexual intercourse. Okay. Now the fertilization. Fertilization, once the haploid male gamete and the female gamete, haploid female gamete, that will fuse together to form the diploid zygote, that is known as the fertilization or syngamy, or it may be known as syngamy. And this can occur either outside the body, called the external fertilization, and if it is inside the body, then it is internal fertilization. So again, there are two types of fertilization here: external fertilization, and internal fertilization. If this fertilization, that means what, the zygote preparation, that will happen externally, then it is external fertilization. If this occurs within the body at that time, this is the internal fertilization. That is the internal fertilization. For human being, this is internal fertilization. Now, internal fertilization, here you can see that in sexual reproductive system, the male inserts the semen into the female reproductive tract to fuse with the egg. Okay, so here you can see that here there is a fallopian tube, and through this fallopian tube you can see that there will be sperm here, and this sperm and this egg, both of this will fertilize inside this, and the fusion takes place within the female parent. It is called the internal fertilization. So in the female parent, that sperm travel from the uterus into the fallopian tube, from this uterus into the fallopian tube, it will be inserted. Okay, so this sperm travel, and whenever it will move through the fallopian tube, you can see that this is the uterus here. So you can see that there will be some internal fertilization. So here this is the ovary, and this is the fallopian tube, and this one is the uterus, and this is the sperm travel path through which the sperm travel from uterus into the fallopian tube. Now, in human and most animals like cat, lion, pigs, dogs, hens, those animals, the fusion of gametes takes place internally. But they place internally. A zygote will be formed within the mother and gets its nourishment from the mother, right? So the zygote, that you remember that always there the zygote will be formed in the internal fertilization. The zygote will be formed inside, or we can write within mother, and whatever the nutrition requires the zygote to become embryo and then baby, that nutrition will be taken up from the mother. So the nourishment that will be taken from the mother. Okay, so here you can see that here they have the ovary here and ovarian tube, and these are the testicles and sperm tubes. From this sperm tube, the sperm will go inside this, and in the ovary you can see that through the ovarian tube, and in the ovary you can see that the fertilization will occur. External fertilization. So when the fusion of sperm and egg takes place outside the female parent, it is called external fertilization. So external fertilization, this is a mode of reproduction in which male organism's sperm fertilizes a female organism's egg outside the female's body. And it is contrasted with internal fertilization, in which sperm are introduced via insemination and then combined with an egg inside the body of the female organism. So this is the external fertilization, and this is characterized by the release of both sperm and eggs into the external environment. In this picture you can see that for the frog, they are doing the external fertilization. So their sperm and eggs, they are releasing into the external environment, that is into the water, and sperm will fertilize the egg outside the organism, here as seen in the figure. Okay, So sperms and egg, these are released into water, and after that this will fertilize. And like salmon, cod, trout, carp are all examples of the fish that externally fertilize. And the females release the egg mass and male release the seminal fluid containing the sperm into the water, and where they diffuse together and fertilize. Diffuse together and fertilize. So most of the fish, they are doing the external fertilization, and here, the most externally fertilization happens during the process of spawning, where one or several females release their eggs and the males release sperm in the same area at the same time. The release of the reproductive material may be triggered by water temperature or the length of the daylight. So the main difference between the internal and external fertilization is that internal fertilization is the process when the syngamy occurs inside the female body after insemination using copulation, and in external fertilization is the syngamy outside the female body, that is the outer environment, especially in water bodies. So this fish, for the vast majority of the greater than 33,000 species of bony fishes, they reproduce using the external fertilization. And frog, they are doing the external fertilization. The male frog grabs the female's back and fertilizes the eggs as the female frog releases them. And here, Rana pipins usually lays around 2,500 eggs, while the bullfrog and Rana cativarian that can lay up to 20,000. So these are the external fertilization. And in case of chicken, you can see that these will do the internal fertilization, and birds reproduce internal fertilization, and so many other animals also we have, they are doing the external fertilization. Okay, so this external fertilization, as I have told, the parent deposits her eggs in the external environment, and later the male parent ejects his sperm over them, and then fusion of the gametes takes place. So this will continue again in the lecture 2. Thank you all.